Wouldn't it be great if you and your customers had a mutual friend, someone that they trusted, someone that they listened to, someone that they loved? That is the promise of influencer marketing, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So the marketing department and the WWU Alumni Association are excited to welcome you to today's Marketing Alumni Chat on influencer marketing. Our panelists today are three wonderful WWU marketing alumni, and I'm really excited to welcome Kelly Harp, Tiffany Fung, and Abigail Coleman for our conversation today. Before we get started, there is a little bit of housekeeping. Many of you have submitted questions, and we love that. We really appreciate all the questions that came in through registration. As we move through the discussion today, please use the Zoom Q&A feature, which should be in the bottom middle of your screen, to send us any questions that you'd like to share with the conversation. We'll be responding to those questions throughout the discussion today as best as we are able. We also recommend that you use the speaker view as part of Zoom. So, okay, let's get started. Allow me to introduce Kelly Harp. Kelly? There she is.
Hello, hi everybody. So I graduated from Western in 2013, so almost 8 years ago. And I've been working in digital marketing since then. I started as a social media intern at the Museum of Glass in Tacoma, Washington. And then I moved down to Portland, where I worked at a PR agency on their digital team for 4 years. There I worked with a lot of food and beverage clients on their social channels. I had the chance to engage with influencers, strengthen and create influencer partnerships, and develop influencer campaigns to promote new products. Today, I'm at Pierce Transit in Tacoma again on the digital communications team. And there I work with influencers in a little different capacity. Instead of a specific person, they might be other local like government agencies or transit groups, or like a reporter or a local account with large followings. So.
Great. Tiffany Fung.
Okay, hi. I'm Tiffany. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'm a social media strategist by day, photographer by night. I graduated from Western last year in March, so kind of coming up to a year now. I'm now a social associate at Aloe Moves and a social media manager at Doe Lashes. And yeah, I guess I just kind of oversee what we do on socials for both brands and also manage our influencers at Doe.
Great. And Abigail Coleman.
Oh. I'm muted. Okay. Hi, my name is Abigail. I just graduated from Western this past June, and I work in social and influencer, but I like to specialize in content creation, integrated marketing communications, and influencer relations. Right after graduation, I went into working a more corporate job doing influencer marketing, and now I'm actually working in more of a startup position, which sort of means I get to do everything, all social, all influencer, all of the above. So I've had a little bit of experience on the brand side and on the creator side as well. So I'm really, really excited for this conversation. I think this is something that as marketers, we need to talk about maybe a little bit more. So thank you so much to Ed and to the Alumni Association for making this happen.
Thanks. It's great to have all three of you here. And, you know, I think that Abigail brings up a really great point. For a lot of us, influencer marketing is this new kind of marketing that sort of snuck up on us a little bit. And so I think my first question for the three of you would be, what is influencer marketing? You want to start off?
I guess. So I guess what influencer marketing is just kind of working with creators, individuals who have a good amount of followers. It doesn't, I mean, I guess it depends. You know, certain campaigns require like working with celebrities or more well-known people who are like bigger people who literally influence like what other people do, but others, you know, you want to work with lifestyle people. It's just kind of engaging with celebrities and people that align with your product or brand to bring like a greater engagement.
Great, great. Abigail, Kelly, you want to add up?
I was gonna build on that, and as opposed to traditional like commercials or advertising, influencer marketing really focuses on a person, real people, and it has been like bigger celebrities, people with larger followings, but I've noticed a trend towards more like micro influencers, smaller followings, people with like really niche audiences. And then you just leverage that partnership, and that person will promote your product and brand versus you doing all the promotion on your own.
Great. Yeah.
Add one thing. Can I add a little bit, Ed?
Oh, yeah.
Building off of what had Kelly said, for me, there's sort of two parts of influencer marketing. The first is content, and the second is community. When it comes to content, a lot of brands use influencer marketing almost as a way to replace in-house production because they're using people that are already in these communities that are already creating incredible content that people already connect with. So on one side, influencer marketing is really about creating that content that's not only used on social, that can be used for other marketing collateral as well. And on the opposite side, influencer marketing is really about cultivating meaningful relationships with communities. And using influencers is sort of like a jump into those communities that already exist versus starting from scratch, trying to create that community yourself, especially if you're a small brand.
Great. Yeah, you know, it's interesting to me that, you know, Kelly used the term niche, and Abigail used the term communities. And it seems to me that this is a big part of this. Do you think that one of the big factors in influencer marketing is that it does give you access to a very narrowly defined group? Is that part of this?
It definitely gives you access to your target market, which is super important. You know, you can pick someone whose focus is in food or someone whose focus is in sports rather than just a really popular person.
Okay, great. You know, there's a term that I've heard you use, next generation social. What is that? What does that mean?
Who do you want to answer first?
I want you to answer that, Abigail.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, for me, next generation social, I guess, is being able to adapt to culture because culture is everything. Marketing is a reflection of culture. So when it comes to next generation social, it's how can we stay on top of the trends? How can we not, I don't want to say fall behind, but how can we keep up with what audiences want, with what consumers want? So for me, next generation social, the biggest thing that comes to my mind is vertical video. I know that's started to become introduced with Snapchat, I guess was the first vertical video. And now it's on Instagram and especially TikTok. But I think a lot of billboards, you know, in big metropolitan areas, they are now the 1080 by 1920 size. Everything is being curated to be this vertical video. So I think what is next generation social is really paying attention to the communities that you're trying to sell to. What do they care about? What drives them? And I think, yeah, if anyone else can build off of that, they might not have the best answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely agree because, you know, we've seen TikTok rise so much like in the last year, especially during like quarantine and all of that. And I think like the reason why it's building so much is just because, you know, like vertical video gives you that like raw, genuine type of feeling when you watch. Like if you're watching somebody's like 10 slide story, you feel like they're talking to you, not like to a big audience and like try to sell you something. It's like their genuine review or discussion about something. So you feel like you're more connected to it. And I feel like it's important for brands to be aware of that so they can like, I guess, genuinely connect with people rather than sell them on a product.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about next generation social, this vertical video is a big part of that, and that seems to mean Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. What are the strengths and weaknesses of each of these platforms?
I'll start, and I'll start with TikTok because I think that's definitely probably the hottest social platform right now that more and more brands are trying to figure out how they can fit in and where they can jump in on that. And the strength is that things can go extremely viral. Like we've seen, you know, products sell out, like the feta pasta recipe, the certain skincare brands just has crazy power for everything. And in the same way, the shelf life for content is so quick. Like you have to be on it next day, within the week. It's harder to add it into your strategy and plan for it next month. Like the turnaround is so quick. And you really, what I'm also seeing is a lot of companies are starting to have like dedicated people like just for TikTok or just for one platform so they can really focus and just be right on it.
Okay, so it sounds like the strength of TikTok is that it is exploding. One of the weaknesses is just the demands for the amount of content that has to be constantly refreshed on there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and the trends just move so fast. So like something that was trending yesterday may not be relevant tomorrow. So like the best way to go viral on TikTok is use like the trending sounds, the trending like templates, like the stories, you know, set up. And then that can just switch so fast. So if you're not right on top of it, your video is not going to be put in the For You page for most people to see it.
So you just can't stick with the sea shanties. What about the other platforms, though?
Can I add a disadvantage of TikTok before we move on?
Sure.
One thing that I've noticed is from the brand side, it's almost impossible to run paid ads on TikTok right now, unless you have a budget that's upwards of $100,000 a month only for TikTok. It's really hard to gain any of that paid space. But in terms of other platforms, I guess I'll talk to Instagram a little bit. Instagram has changed a lot over the last couple of years, and Instagram has always been a place for visual storytelling, but now we're seeing a little bit of a shift where, you know, Instagram is not a platform for virality. It's not even necessarily a platform to create anymore. What I see both as a creator and from the brand perspective is Instagram now is sort of acting like a second landing page for your website. If you're looking to get into retail, say you're a small business trying to get your product sold in a retail space, a lot of those retailers will look at your Instagram to that weighs a lot in that decision. So, you know, whether that's an advantage or a disadvantage, you can kind of decide that on yourself. But I think it's also, we all kind of see that Instagram has, because of these changes, engagement on Instagram is really, really a hard conversation now. So
Okay.
yeah, does Tiffany or Kelly, do you have any insight for Instagram specifically?
Yeah, I'll jump back in on that. That's a really good point about the landing page. I've seen a lot of like articles about the same thing where some people say that you don't even have to have a website anymore. You can just do it all on Instagram. And I'm not affiliated with this brand at all, but the Later Media, that company has some really good articles about how you can flesh out your Instagram profile, like down to your description, your profile name, the story highlights, how you can really set it up to mimic like a web page and be the most informational.
Interesting. Wow, that sounds really valuable. Tiffany, anything to add on Instagram or any other platform?
Yeah, I feel like Instagram has just become a place where it's exclusively for evergreen content. Like if you're posting anything on Reels or even the feed, like it's stuff that can't expire, you know. We've tried to post things on like the brand feed that is like, I don't know, temporary, like a sale or just a promotion, and people just don't take it the same way because with the algorithm, sometimes you see something like 3 days after it's been posted and like it's too late. And so it's just kind of become like a place where people find permanent things like, oh, let me learn about this product that just came out. Like that's where the announcements are, you know, and then like the stories are where you get the temporary stuff like the sales and like quick facts or like an event that might come up. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of a both an advantage and a disadvantage, depending on like, I guess what you're trying to do and covering all the bases.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Um, Now, when you're working with influencers, what do you think are some of the spoken and unspoken rules? This is a question that we had submitted. What are some of the spoken and unspoken rules when working with influencers? What does nobody tell you and then you eventually have to learn yourself? Why don't we start with Tiffany on this one?
Um, Man, I've been trying to think of an answer for this since you like said it in the practice. I don't know. It's kind of hard because it's so different how every brand does influencer marketing. You know, some people outsource or they use an app to like communicate through influencers. So I guess like being, I don't know, it's hard to describe because it's like you have to lay out all of your information to an influencer if you want to have it go the right way, I guess. Even if it's like if it's going to move to email, you like it's like, you know, think of adding someone on LinkedIn and you have that little blurb to like write a sentence, be like, "Hi, I'm Tiffany." So it's like brands still have to pitch themselves to influencers the same way influencers have to pitch to us, like how they want to work with each other because I don't know, there's a connection that you have to establish and also I don't know.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that you've got to really look for the fit, and you've got to give
Yeah.
enough information for the influencer to see the fit and make it work. And so you've got to be really clear about what your brand is about, and you've got to be
Mhm.
really clear about what your goals for the engagement are.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Yeah. Let's go to Abigail. Do you have any thoughts on this? I know Kelly has some thoughts as well.
Yeah, so my first thought when it comes to spoken versus unspoken rules is followers don't really matter anymore. And TikTok has shown that. On TikTok, it's more about, you know, the algorithm and just getting out a ton of content as opposed to on Instagram. Followers do have a lot more weight. So a spoken rule, I would say, is that your engagement rate speaks a lot more than your followers. And when it comes to unspoken rules, one of something that I had to learn almost honestly the hard way, and this is something that isn't really talked about a lot, is that Black and Brown creators don't get the same opportunities that their white counterparts do. And in influencer marketing, I'm going to be honest, it's really easy to fill your influencer program with skinny, conventionally attractive white people. Just being honest, it's so easy. There's so many influencers out there that when you're vetting influencers, you know, you're probably not consciously thinking like, oh, that's a great creator, that's a great creator. And really at the end of the day, there are a lot of incredible creators that aren't given the same opportunities or even the same payout that their white counterparts are. And I think that's a huge part of influencer marketing that's not spoken about that I definitely wanted to include in this conversation.
That's really helpful to hear. It's, you know, it seems to me that, you know, if you want to create a brand that's really compelling and divergent, what you're talking about there might actually suggest that there are some opportunities to engage with some different profiles. So that's really useful.
Yeah. There's so many different types of creators out there with different, you know, different aspects that make them unique. And brands, you know, just need to pay attention to that and not only give opportunities to the people that you think might give you the highest ROI, you know?
Yeah, great. And I want to, you made a really great point about followers versus engagement. And I want to come back to that a little later in this conversation. Kelly, you had some particular thoughts on the unspoken rules or the things that you had, rather, the things that you had to learn yourself.
Yes, and I wanted to talk about just learning how to be authentic and find that authentic voice. That definitely takes some testing, trial and error, really learning what works for your brand, like which influencers work best for your brand, like which audience you're looking for, just really trying to dive in and find that like authentic voice, authentic partnerships. That's something that it takes a little while to learn, but once you do, it's so helpful.
Yeah. That's great. What can go wrong when we think about influencer marketing? What are some of the things that can keep you up at night? Kelly, why don't maybe you start on this one?
Well, in the past, I've run influencer campaigns where we've influencer total control over a brand account to do their stories, and you just you never know what could happen. They could post anything, something totally off message. Just really anything could happen, and that is why it's so important to vet these influencers, make sure they're a good fit, have your best interest in mind as well. So that's just from my experience what can go wrong. I'm not saying that did happen, nothing went wrong, but definitely is something I had to think about.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it seems to me like, we've been talking about maybe not influencer marketing, but sort of viral marketing and things like that for quite a while. And brand control has always been a big issue. It sounds like that issue is sort of magnified here as well.
Yeah, it's definitely like a tight line to walk because you don't want to give them too much control and lose like their real voice. Their followers will be able to tell if they're reading off a script or posting like a pre-written caption. So it's a really fine line.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Tiffany, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, I think that's why like it's so important to find somebody that's like, I guess, the right fit. Just because if you find somebody with a similar voice as your brand, it helps with just coordinating with each other. Also, an important thing that like some brands don't think about is having like a prepared brief or just a general brief to give influencers an idea of like who your brand is and what type of voice we want to convey. And I've seen a lot of the time, like, because brands don't send a specific brief about themselves, like introduce themselves and just be really forward with who they are and what they'd like to see from people that they work with, it becomes very, I guess, chaotic with the type of content that they create, and it sometimes just looks, I don't know, like half-assed.
Sure. I think that's the industry term for that, isn't it? Yeah. And just sort of follow up on that, if you have to choose between the prominence of the influencer and the fit of the influencer with your brand, and then also the content, what are you going to choose?
Always a fit.
Fit, yeah.
I was also going to say it depends. It depends. I mean, the answer to everything in marketing is it depends. Thank you, Mark Staten. But Ed, can I add a little bit of what I think could go wrong? Okay, so one thing that I've learned is influencer marketing is all about relationships, and a lot of times companies want to say they do have a budget to give to influencer marketing, which oftentimes there is no budget for social or influencer. So let's just say you do have a budget. I sometimes see a lot of businesses honestly wasting a lot of their money trying to go for that volume, trying to have, let's have 5,000 influencers when they don't even know their influencers' names. They don't know anything about their story. These creators, they each are in their own position of authority within their niche because they have something to say, because they have something to contribute to that community. And I think a lot of times businesses make the mistake of wanting a really fast reaction and response. They want to see the sales increase. They want to see the numbers, but with influencer marketing, you have to be so patient, because if you don't cultivate and nurture every single relationship, it might hurt you on the other end of that. So I think that patience is something that isn't talked about a lot within influencer marketing. And you can't just throw money at an influencer program. You know, even if, again, say you do have a budget, even if you're able to pay every single creator for the content that they're given, which oftentimes isn't always the case, but even if you can pay them, again, another mistake is sort of valuing transactions over relationships, which I see all the time.
It sounds like a really interesting balance with this timeliness that you need to have and the patience. I want to jump into a couple of. I'm sorry.
Question. With the timeliness, do you mean in terms of content?
Yes.
If you're running a campaign right now, you need the content in 2 weeks. Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to give we've got a couple of follow-up questions that people have posted I want to jump to. This one is for you, Abigail. You said that followers don't matter as much. Do you think it's a red flag for influencers to have low followers and high likes?
Low follow, I would initially say it depends on the platform. Low followers and high likes, it's hard to tell. I would say if they have low followers, I don't think I have the right answer to that. Tiffany, maybe you can answer this better.
It's funny because I was talking about that with my boss today. There are a lot of girls, like young high school girls on Instagram right now with like really low followers and an insane amount of likes. And for a while, like we thought that they were bots, you know, like you can easily buy likes now to make it look legitimate, like your fake followers. But like what I found is like, because the explore page is still so powerful, it makes it so like once you have that high engagement and like high like, your posts are really like valuable and gets boosted really high or really well, I guess, on the explore page. So I feel like it just depends on the case, you know, like if it's a picture of a pretty girl and she has a lot of likes, you know, you kind of get why there's like a lot of engagement because, you know, all of her friends are hyping them up. And then it's just like an exciting post, especially with brands too. Like sometimes they might be new and then they have a low amount of followers, but a lot of hype is driven there. So a lot of people go there and look. And so I think it just depends, you know, like certain accounts are very obvious in having fake followers because the comments don't even balance. So it's just, you have to know, I guess, what you're looking for and see, like vet the comments sometimes too, to like make sure it's real.
Okay.
I think it's more dangerous to be on the opposite side of that, where you have a lot of followers, but you don't have a lot of engagement, and not even speaking to likes, just engagement in terms of views, shares, comments, especially. If you have, I mean, that just says flat out, you know, I bought my followers. I don't actually have a community. So that's a really interesting question. Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Yeah, can I speak to that as well?
Yes, and I have a follow-up question for you as well.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we always really look at engagement compared to their followers. That's like the engagement rate you were talking about. Rather than we've had like a client send us a person and go, oh, this person has like 1,000 likes on this post. And then we'll look and say, well, they have 4 million followers. Like that's an extremely low amount of likes. Like that's not a good match. Where if they have 1,000 likes on a post but have like 5,000 followers, that's an excellent match. And bringing up what Abigail said about like looking at the comments and other forms of engagement, that's also becoming more and more now, as you know, Instagram did the test of removing the likes like last week. So it's really looking at how else their followers are engaging. Are they commenting, and are they commenting like valuable comments? Are they being tagged in a lot of posts? That sort of thing.
Interesting. It's complicated. So a follow-up for you, Kelly. This is from someone who also works for a government agency doing social media, written and visual content. It can be difficult to connect with the local community since the majority of our impacts are indirect, unless you work on site. And our influencers are customers or state, federal legislators. What has been your greatest success with connecting with the public?
That's an interesting situation that your audience is the legislators. Where I would maybe start is try and target like the legislative following and people who are really active in the community and pushing for like government change. Like maybe start working with them and really catering to them, and then they can in turn go to the legislators. For us, we've worked with prominent influencers for just helping us spread the word and getting things out, and that's really nice. And full disclosure, I work for a transit agency, so what I've really been focusing on is finding people who ride the bus and are really like big transit advocates, and then I'll get them to show photos of them riding the bus and I'll just reshare it. So I kind of just will nudge them to do a lot of the sharing and like lean on their audience and their page. And I will use that content, which is really nice. So that's how I go about it. And I hope that helped the person. They can reach out to me if they want.
Great, great. I hope they do.
Mhm.
Okay. Here's a question from the exceptionally talented Rachel Walsh. What's an example of a successful influencer social media campaign that you led?
I have one.
Great.
And go again. This is back when I worked in Portland at the PR agency. And one of my clients was Dr. Prager's, which is a big veggie burger brand. And well, they have other products as well because they were launching a new version of their fish sticks. And one day, my coworker, she just came down into my desk and she's like, Kelly, let's just dream up something big for this fish launch. And we came up with a campaign called Go Wild. And we partnered with 4 influencers, New York, Florida, California, and then I think one in Seattle as well. And we had them take over our account and lead a scavenger hunt. And the prize was product coupons and an Alaska Air gift card. So just a huge prize. We chose big and small influencers. And in 1 week, we were able to grow the Instagram by 2,000 followers. So maybe that doesn't directly translate to product purchases, but it definitely helped with product awareness and got that new launch on a bunch of eyes on it that wouldn't have been necessarily.
Wow, that's a great example. Okay, let's talk about what are some of the tools and the resources that a marketer can use to predict and measure success of posts and trends across social channels. What do you measure? And how do you measure it?
Do you mean measuring the success of a current campaign or trying to predict the ROI of a future campaign?
Well, this is specific to posts. Okay, so it looks like to me there are 2 parts here. So there's measures the success of posts, and then there's also how do you measure trends across channels. So why don't we take those in different pieces? How do you measure how successful a post is?
Tiffany, go ahead. I know you want to come.
I'll start, I'll make it super quick, but we look at that engagement again, and we look at reach compared to likes and comments, shares, saves, that sort of stuff. What is really helpful is if you're working with the influencer that you have a good relationship with, or you can establish this in your contract beforehand, is they can provide you the analytics. And I've had them send me like the back end of a post looking at the different insights. And if they're driving people to their like a blog post on their site, they can give us access to their Google Analytics. So then I can go in and look at like this many people clicked over, they spent like X amount of time on the site and then took this step. So it's really helpful to partner with the influencer and get their back end as well.
Interesting. Cool. Tiffany, did you have something you wanted to add there?
I guess like for what our brand, what Doe Lashes does, we don't, I guess we do mostly unpaid campaigns, so we don't ask for analytics from our influencers. Sometimes we just look them up if they're TikTok campaigns, but we kind of match our average day engagement versus like a day where influencers are posting about us, just to see like the difference. Like especially when we did National Lash Day, I sent out like I think 20 PR packages to like a bunch of influencers with like 80K followers and up, and they all like, we didn't have any strings attached to it. It was just like a cute package for them to like have for this day. And like because everybody was posting about getting a free package in their stories, it just boosted especially our stories and like our website clicks, because people were like curious, like what's this brand, like why is everyone talking about it? But,
Wow.
yeah.
But what about the other part of this, measuring trends across platforms? Abigail, do you have any thoughts on that? I guess across social channels.
That's really hard, to be honest, because you know, there's a trend on TikTok that is virtually non-existent on Instagram. One that I have been looking at recently, Tiffany, you might know what I'm talking about, is alt eyeliner, like alt liner, sort of like an edgier, just eyeliner style. And on TikTok, there's tons of content about it. But on Instagram, hashtag alt liner has like 200 posts. So it's so hard in terms of measuring success across channels, I guess, is, you know, are you able to communicate your brand story successfully, first of all? Second of all, are your influencers able to, are they able to communicate the essence of the brand within their content as well? So, I mean, when it comes to success, it really depends on, I also want to say, you have to make sure that the organizational goals match with the strategy that you're applying on social, because if there's a disconnect between those goals, you're not going to know what to measure. You're not going to know what your KPIs are, your key performance indicators. You're not going to know. So I guess being on the same page as everyone else that's involved in this, whether, you know, it's someone that's at the higher level who's just like writing your influencer check, they need to understand what's going on, and they need to understand the goals that you have and how you're going to communicate those, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to add what Abigail said in the beginning. It's so important for brands to know, like the trends that you see across platforms are so different, especially now with TikTok being the number one platform that people use to get, you know, information, new trends and everything. Everything that you see, especially on Instagram Reels, is probably a month late. So I feel like it's really important to just be on top of like every single platform, just to be able to measure like what could be useful for you as a brand, and then what's going to come up next in like the next channel.
Is that like somebody's job? I mean, how do you make time for that?
Exactly.
I
You don't.
I haven't been on my personal TikTok in so long.
That sounds just amazing. Okay, we have lots of other questions. Edward Coe, this is a really interesting question. Do you only seek out already trending influencers, or is there some sort of formula or way to seek out or identify individuals that are not trending but are on the verge? Kelly's nodding her head, so I think she's got something for you.
I mean, in the past, like as a community manager, I've noticed who is always tagging us, who's always commenting on our posts. And then we've reached out to them and sent them free coupons. Like we had a program called our like super fan program, where it wasn't necessarily influencers, but just people consistently posting about us and sharing our product, that we would in turn send coupons and start establishing that relationship with them. And maybe they do turn out to grow bigger in a bigger following. But that's how in the past I've started out with smaller accounts.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that there's actually a huge advantage of working with nano and micro influencers. For example, right now I am working with a startup, so I don't have a budget to pay, influencers that have 100,000 plus followers. So really what I'm looking for is influencers that actually care about the industry that I'm working in. What a concept to actually get influencers that, have the same problems as your customers, that are solving these problems through their content. So I think that it's another side of that is your business can grow with these creators. So say a creator has only 1,000 followers. I mean, only, that's still a lot. Say they have 500 followers and you're just starting out as a business. If you start that relationship with that person who has 500 followers, who knows, in 3 years they could have 100,000 followers. And if you didn't start that relationship now, you might not have the professional relationship you have with them, later down the road. And when it comes to contracts and exclusivity rights and things like that, you really, again, it's just about cultivating those actual meaningful relationships, because in the end, those creators are going to come back. They're going to want to work with you again. They're going to keep talking about your brand even after this campaign is over, even after they've been paid for this campaign. And I think that that is one of the most important things.
Great. Yeah, that's really interesting, and something I think I heard from both you and Kelly was how identifying that fit that Tiffany was talking about earlier can be the early indicator that you want to focus on. Not so much maybe the followers, but maybe those people who have a lot of passion and excitement about what you're doing. Well, those are the ones that may be able to grow a following that matters to you, because what matters is the folks that are in your target. So that's really interesting. Um, Another question from the chat is resharing content. This is a great question. Is resharing content a large part of influencer marketing?
What do you mean?
I would ask, what do you mean reshare? Was that your question, Kelly?
I would say this might be coming from a brand's perspective. That's as a brand working with an influencer, resharing content is important, or it's a nice benefit, I would say, I guess. We've totally worked with influencers where I've just left them to be and create and just have the content live on their page. And if I think it would do really well with our audience, then I do reshare it. Now for at Pierce Transit, I take any help I can get. So if someone's sharing photos, I will almost always reshare that content. So it's definitely a part of it. It's not always like the main part or the smallest part. It just kind of works into it. Hopefully that helps.
That was great. Yeah. Would either of Tiffany or Abigail like to add to that?
I have a little insight. It depends on the creator, but if you do want to share their content, a lot of times ask first. Because if you are a brand and you are resharing someone's content, sometimes they might come back to you and ask for you to take it down. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter, honestly, because it's, the content belongs to the creator. And if there's not, like Tiffany was saying, if it's an unpaid campaign, if it's just on a gifting basis, you might assume it's okay to repost that. But it really isn't going to hurt to just slide in that DM and say, hey, we really, really love this post. We think it really represents the brand. Can we repost it on our main account? A lot of times, like 9 times out of 10, they will say yes. But you starting that conversation will not only build your credibility as a brand, but it'll also let that creator know, okay, they take me seriously as a creator. I, will probably want to create for them again, even if it's on an unpaid basis.
Great. Interesting. Emily Moe has a great question. How do you deal with trolls, hate comments about your brand or about a specific influencer? That seems tough.
About a specific influencer, we now vet for our influencers and make sure that there are no red flags. um, there was an occasion, it was before I started working at my current job. Well, I guess my coworker's boss, they sent lashes to this one girl that, was just a cute dance TikToker. She danced, she made comedy videos, and then she started posting very inappropriate political videos. And so we had a lot of backlash. Like, although we did like one gifted campaign with her, people like remembered that we did it. And so we just had to shut it down and like clarify that it was a one-time thing, and it was before it came out, and that like we're making sure that we vet people ahead of time to make sure none of that would happen. But it's really unpredictable sometimes. And as for trolls, it depends on the comment. If it's really mean, we just ignore it. And then if like it's something that we can justify, like we'll respond to it. Like we had this comment on one of my TikToks where it was like saying our lashes, because we sell eyelashes, looks like dollar store lashes. And so I responded to it and described like the process of how like the lashes are made and what makes us special, I guess, like the dough difference. And it's funny because now it's our most popular video, and it got us like 70,000 followers in a week.
So they created an opening for you to provide a little bit more information. That's great.
Yeah.
Well done. What else anyone else have anything to add on that?
I think coming again from a brand perspective, you can kind of save yourself by sharing like your guidelines on your profile. So I know we've put out things that's like, we'll delete comments that include like swear words or slurs or hateful speech and stuff like that. Because really, you don't want to be deleting comments. You want to keep them up and keep that transparency. I know it can be really hard, like having a repeat troll. And if it's just someone who I know is going to comment on every single post something negative, I've just blocked them or hidden their comment if it gets to that point. But it is very hard to deal with trolls. And if it ever gets to you, just log off and take a walk and leave your phone at home. That's been my best solution. And call a friend.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it depends on the comment and it depends on the weight of the comment. If it, like Tiffany had said, if it's something that is going to lead to further conversation where you can establish credibility as a brand, then yeah, go ahead and respond, listen. You might not respond directly to that comment, but you might post future content that indirectly responds to it. But another situation that I had was some questionable comments on an Instagram live, which in that aspect is really hard to monitor because if you're on an Instagram live on a brand page, you can't be managing the comments while you're doing the live. So it's really hard, but a lot of times you have to either take it with a grain of salt or honestly just ignore it in some cases, which I don't, ignoring comments is not necessarily the best practice. Like Kelly had said, you don't want to be deleting comments. But you just have to understand that if this person is only here just to cause chaos in your IG live and take attention away from what the conversation actually is, then you just have to recognize that and keep moving forward with what the conversation is that you're trying to have. And your audience that's there to listen to you, they will understand.
Yeah. Wow. I guess it just all keeps coming back to this idea of control and how you can manage that. Here's another question from Tiana. How do you find your influencers? And actually, there's another question that's sort of the other side of that. How do you find your influencers? Are there services that use a sort of influencer database to connect you with the right influencers? I think Kelly addressed this to some degree earlier, but and talked about how she and the rest of you have done some of your own investigation in that area. But are there other ways to find influencers?
I think the best way, I'm saying this probably because I do it, but I think the best way to find influencers is literally organically doing it as a consumer. What we do at Doe is my boss and I literally scroll our TikTok For You page or our personals, and if we see someone we like, we reach out to them immediately because those are the people we want to see, like people that you personally like on the feed and that other people like. You don't want to just, look for people who everyone's working with, because, it might not be a good fit and they might not deliver the same way, or like deliver the content that you want to see.
So that other word that we keep coming back to, fit. And that's a great way to manage fit. Great.
And there definitely are tools you can use in databases. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but I know that they do exist. Like if you want to find mom bloggers, just as like a jumping off spot, you can search for a specific genre, and then you can go and do your own research and from that list and pick like whoever will be the best fit. And I know there's like influencer agencies. So there are other ways if you just want to outsource it or don't even know where to start. Just throwing that out there.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
just
go ahead.
can I add just a little bit, Ed?
Yeah.
Just my own experience. I actually worked within a platform called Aspire IQ. There's a lot of different influencer platforms that connects creators to brands, and a feature within that is, you have one influencer and they have certain characteristics, and pretty much the algorithm will spit out a bunch of other influencers that are very similar in the same niche, talk about the same things. But from my experience, I got to go with Tiffany. Finding them organically always works better than, using a system. Not to say that those systems don't have their time and their place, because it really just depends on the personnel and, how much time do you have to put into finding influencers. But I really do think that finding them organically is going to bring a lot more of a return, both, in, however you're measuring that return. I think that influencer marketing is I keep saying this, it's all about the relationships, and finding them organically, whether that's, you're searching through hashtags, or something that I like to do is I'll go to, maybe it's not even an influencer, but maybe a brand that's in the same niche or maybe an adjacent niche, and I will see who they're following. What creators are they keeping up with? If I'm working within makeup, I'm going to look within skincare and see who of those creators are making really incredible content that also I might be able to work with as well. So yes, those systems again have their time and place, but I think organically is your best bet.
And you said that was Aspire IQ was the service you mentioned?
Aspire IQ. You do have to pay for it. I mean, that's sort of what I was speaking to earlier. Like, you can't just throw money at an influencer campaign and hope that it'll give back to you, because these platforms, they're really expensive to use. So I would say, if you're thinking about investing in something like that, just make sure that your goals are very clear and that you've tried organically first, and that you're very purposeful in why you're spending that money on that particular platform.
Okay. So best practice is really organic, boots on the ground, finding it yourself. But then there are some services that can provide support and help you get started. Great. On the flip side of that, what are some of the important considerations in trying to become an influencer? What are the biggest challenges, and what makes it worthwhile?
I would just say finding something you love, honestly. Like, it's so cliche and it's so cheesy, but you have to find something that you care about. I don't care about sneakers. I'm not going to go run and be a sneakerhead and try and, gain a following based off of that. Influencer marketing, it's not easy. Social media marketing, it's not easy on the brand side or on the creator side. So if you don't love what you're doing, if you don't care about the industry you're working in, it's going to come through in the content. It's going to come through in the community. So I would say figure out what you care about, and then figure out what role you can play within that industry to, like what you do on an everyday basis. Like, what a concept, love what you do. So that's what I would say, is focus on your passion.
Great.
Yeah, I think with that, you shouldn't I guess, have goals to be an influencer. I feel like you should have goals to do something cool with what you love. Like Abigail said, I get brand partnerships from my photography account just because I post things of me going outside, and brands are like, we want to do an outdoor campaign with you because that's what you post about. So it's just I don't know, you shouldn't shoot for making money from brands. You should be posting about things you enjoy, and then it'll come to you.
I just want to add one more thing is if you are trying to become an influencer, I would really focus in on your niche and focus in on a couple brands within that niche that you think that your style matches with, that your personality matches with. Because, for example, I work within makeup and skincare. So if I was to post a photo and tag 20 different brands, none of those brands are going to want to repost that photo because it's not specific to their brand. It speaks more to my brand, which is totally fine. Like I can tag 20 brands all I want if I'm creating just for me. But if I'm creating with the intent or the desire to be reposted, then I'm going to want to focus in on a couple not even smaller brands, but dedicating a post to maybe one brand at a time. And I think that that's a mistake that I see a lot, specifically within my industry. Is trying to have such a large reach, and with one post you have to tag everybody. But I don't think that's true. I think that really limit it down, and what brands do you care about, why do you care about them, and try and create that meaningful, real relationship, not just grabbing anything you can, is my advice.
Great. We still have so many questions and we're almost out of time. Let's see if we can squeeze in a couple of more though. Courtney asks, TikTok seems so current gen. Now, I will say that I have discovered TikTok and I actually love TikTok. And Courtney, I'm old. Is there a better platform here now or coming for more, we'll say, seasoned audiences?
I think Clubhouse is probably like the most next app that's for adults, just because it's very, I don't know, it circles around people who are in business, people in things that require relationships, like creative industries and marketing. I see a lot of marketing rooms just because people want to grow their network and get to know each other and see what they know about like the industry outside of their like area,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Interesting. Keep hearing about this Clubhouse. Anything else?
Can you ask the question again?
So what about for people who are a little older, what are the platforms that might be up and coming for us? And I guess one way of looking at that is that, we're just going to come in and we're going to push out the young folks from wherever they are. But is there another platform that might be up and coming? Maybe it's Clubhouse for people who've been out there a little longer.
I do want to say that depending on the audience, the next up and coming app honestly might not be the best way to communicate with that audience, because a lot of the times, we see a lot of older demographics, they still love Facebook versus, yes, they're on TikTok as well, but it's more of a struggle. You have to like pull to try and get them on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. So go to where your audience naturally is. That's just my advice. And not try, I don't know, new platforms for older demographics. I'm not sure. That's a really good question, and I wish I had the answer.
Okay. Okay, let's see if we can squeeze in one or two more. June asks, do you think influencer marketing can bring in just as many or even more conversions for a business as, say, paid social? That's a good digital question.
If it's done right, and if you're patient. But it's really hard to tell. That's a good question, June. Kelly, did you have anything to add?
I would say it might be possible, but those are two just very different things. Like paid social is usually an ad and it has like maybe a direct link somewhere that like to a purchase page or a newsletter sign up, just some like very specific conversion that you can track, where influencer marketing maybe over time can lead to something like that, but it's a lot harder to track a specific influence marketer. And we've even coupled it and boosted an influencer's post, so paired paid and influencer together. So
interesting.
That's a tough question.
Wow. But yeah, these things can be used together. They're not fully siloed. That's really That's really a good insight. I'm going to use one last question. Okay. And I think this is a good question for us to end on. Where do you see the future of influencer marketing? Do you think it will have the same impact in 10 years? I mean, is this going to go in some other direction?
I think it will definitely continue moving towards the more micro influencers, smaller, really like localized influencers. I don't know much about this topic, but I've seen the word virtual influencer being tossed around where it's not
Just a virtual
person. So who knows, and who knows like how people will react to that, but that's something that people are speculating about, and you never know, in 10 years that could be really what it is.
like a construct.
Yeah, like there's, I get AI, or like, I don't know, there is a girl who has an Instagram and she's just all digital, like she's not a real person, and it's really interesting.
Let's see.
Mhm.
Any other last thoughts on that? Tiffany, Abigail?
I don't have much of an answer, honestly. In my notes, when you ask this question, my answer that I'm looking at literally says, who knows, period. Because I have no idea. But I will say, listen to the upcoming consumers. Millennials and Gen Z hold such a huge weight on the years to come. And they care about transparency. They care about authenticity. They, these are the things that they value more so heavily than maybe older demographics do. So the future of influencer marketing, I don't know, but I'm going to say keep it real, I guess, is my only advice.
That's great advice.
To keep up with culture as well. I mean, where does culture happen? Right now, it's happening on TikTok. TikTok and what am I saying? TikTok and Twitter, I think, are the best places to go to observe and respond to culture. And influencer marketing is nothing but a reflection of culture. So that's what I would say as well.
Great. Tiffany, did you have any final thoughts on that?
Pretty much, I was just gonna say the same thing. Like, I don't know where TikTok influencer marketing is going to go, but I feel like it's gonna be here to stay for a while. I just think the approach might adjust and change over time, just because people get used to the same static photo of people holding things up. So I feel like it's just gonna transition more into a transparent delivery, I guess, like seeing it on stories of people reviewing it instead of being like, this is a product that I like, and just seeing it become, I guess, like TikTok videos where people just talk about something that they enjoy rather than trying to sell it.
I think influencer marketing, one last thing, will continue to become a lot more accessible as well to a lot more people. TikTok has done an incredible job at this. Everybody can be an influencer. Anybody can be an influencer. And I think that TikTok is a really great platform that showcases that. So yeah, it can be coworkers, it could be like literally anybody can be an influencer at this point. So that's my last insight.
That's great. Anybody can be an influencer. Well, on that note, I will wrap it up. I want to thank our wonderful panel. And from all of us at Western Washington University and from the marketing department, I want to thank you for joining us today. We also want to thank the Western Alumni Association for their partnership on this. We couldn't do this without you. And we would like to thank those of you who chose to support our programs and the marketing department as part of this webinar. Thank you very much. The recording for this webinar will be emailed out in the link to the recording will be emailed out in the next few days. So please check your emails for that soon. We'll be posting content from this in other ways as well. Have a great evening. It's just really great talking to you all. And thanks everyone for the great questions. And we'll see you again soon.
I also want to say, add us on LinkedIn if you have another question, because I know there was a lot that we weren't able to get to and a lot that we couldn't go into in depth how we want. So yeah, continue the conversation on LinkedIn.
Great, great.
So much.
Thank you for that, Abigail. All right, we'll see you all.